Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. Mean Street News is here to provide accurate news to help citizens affect change in their local government and beyond. Being nice is overrated. It is time to be real. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. The time to step up and step in is now. So please come join me, Katie, over on Mean Street News to discuss Ohio politics and beyond. I hope to see you there. Hello, and thank you for joining me here on Mean Street News. I am Katie, and tonight we're going to get right into it. Real quick, sorry about last week, you guys. I had some really kind of important stuff to do that was on a time. I had to get it done last week. I didn't have a choice. So, but a lot of exciting things are happening. This is why the podcast right now is kind of like we're trying to launch, but we're a little bit part-time because we still have I have my hands in 6 different things right now because I'm a crazy person. But today we are going to get into the episode last week on Joe Rogan Experience with JD Tomlinson, that Josh Dubin guy from the Perlmutter Center for Justice, when they are going to talk about the 2 things that are going on. The Ohio 4 case, which we have covered extensively on this podcast. I'm just trying to, real quick, I'm going to share my screen with you all and you can see. Okay. No. Go to meanstreetnews.com, and the Ohio 4 is right here. John Edwards, Benson Davis, Lilworth Edwards, Alfred Cleveland, August 91. A young woman named Marsha Blakely was murdered in Lorain, Ohio, found in the early morning hours of August 8th behind the Gateway Plaza across from the local projects. Her neck was broken, fractured ribs, her throat was slit. Hours before Blakely's body was found, Floyd Epps, her roommate, was struck by a vehicle, dragged, and had his throat slit in the same manner. It is documented police believe these crimes were related. The Ohio 4, John Edwards, Benson Davis, Lilworth Edwards, and Alfred Cleveland would later be tried and wrongfully convicted of murdering Marsha Blakely. Floyd, which is what I believe. That is my belief based on the copious amounts of evidence I have read. I mean, this case, it's just something about it. And I'm not this person going into the crime stuff, but how it's related to the lawfare that's going on, to the radio contract that I've been investigating, the Lorain County RICO, sex lies in county government. It's all interconnected, and it's insane how it is. You know what I mean? And when I came across this, I just dropped everything for 2 weeks and just dug in. And I can't let it go. All the men provided alibis to the police, which should have exonerated them. John Edwards and Benson Davis are still incarcerated. Lilworth Edwards, 29 years incarcerated, and Alfred Cleveland, 27 years incarcerated, were paroled in 2020. Both maintain their innocence to the parole board, and they're still on parole today. Today, Alfred Cleveland and Lilworth Edwards continue to fight to bring John Edwards and Benson Davis home. While fighting to clear their own names, all men want justice for the victims, Marsha Blakely, Floyd Epps, and their families. Floyd Epps' murder is still unsolved. Now, Joe Rogan, back in November, had Josh Dubin on to talk about this case specifically. I'm going to get rid of this. And when he did, he covered the case, what it was about, and he also covered the lawfare that was going on and the charges that were brought against the previous Lorain County prosecutor, JD Tomlinson. But nonetheless, and they talked about the Ohio 4 case. Now, after the Tomlinson case and after extensive review of the documents provided that I went through, I've come to the conclusion that these guys are innocent. It's pretty clear, but the way that their court case like went down, the sole witness testimony by a known crackhead, I mean, who changed his story after he was incarcerated, after he recanted his statement to police. The FBI, the Secret Service were involved in that case, saying that this witness that you have is shaky. And then after reading the reports, I have another theory, which I'm going to share with you guys tonight on who done it. And it's just like my little true crime thing. That isn't much to do. I want to solve it, but I want to make sure that we get justice all the way around. Okay. So I'm going to start with a clip from last week's episode on Joe Rogan. Our previous prosecutor, J.D. Tomlinson, decided to come on, and I'm not going to be very nice to JD in the sense of Battistelli, because that chick set him up, and you'll understand what I'm talking about in a second. So give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna get that video queued up for you. I'm gonna mute for 1 second.
We cared about each other, but then it started to kind of fail, and it was my fault, and I brought a lot of toxicity to the relationship and I don't like the word toxic. I don't know why I don't, but
it's compromised today.
Yeah, right? It is, but that's exactly probably what it was. And so I'm lucky that, but so anyways, there was arguments that were caught, on camera with her and I that were released to the public. And it showed us, me arguing with her and raising my voice. And so it was an extremely embarrassing time in my life. But so this was all happening amidst this. And so it all really did start happening when I exonerated those Nancy Smith and Joseph Allen in 2022. My life changed because I knew there would be consequences to actions like that, because it creates financial problems. People are suing people in federal courts. So it causes problems, even in the sense that I was very close with police. I was a county prosecutor. I'm a very pro-police man. And so it was difficult, the strain that it put on some of the police departments, even though it was an old case. I'm still friends with a lot of these detectives. And to sort of make decisions like that, where you have to kind of disagree, it can be difficult. It could strain relationships. And but I really didn't realize the extent of how much it would do it. So when I exonerated Nancy Smith and Joseph Allen, which is one of the worst cases I've ever seen, I thought that it was the worst case I'd ever seen. And then I got Josh's case. And after I was going through all that hardship, basically on October 1st of 2024, I was charged with 3 felonies: tampering with records, intimidation, and bribery. It was shocking to me because I couldn't figure out what the conduct was that they were referring to. So what in essence it was is because of that fallout from the videos that were released, and she didn't have a partner releasing the videos. And so she had called us in the summer time, even though we weren't really talking a bunch, and she had kind of expressed her sorrow that those videos had gotten out, and that she didn't intend for them to, and that she kind of wanted some help with the media about how can we kind of help a little bit with the PR. And my partner and my chief of staff, Jim Burge, who's a legend unto himself, he's the best writer I've ever seen. So he wrote a statement. And we was supposed to be prepared for her lawyers if they wanted to review it and see if they agreed with it or change it or anything like that. So, and to prove that that's what occurred was I have text messages from her on the day that Jim wrote the statement that says, I trust Jim and his magic pen, because she knew how good of a writer he was. And then the next day, when I'm supposed to be intimidating him, according to the state, when I'm supposed to be intimidating her. According to the state, I received a text message apologizing to this situation that we're in, because we both were just really, it was dramatic to have your personal life right in even a small town like that. It was dramatic. So, so that's really what happened. But what they alleged was.
Okay, I just have to stop it right there real quick because we are not a small town. We are the 9th largest county in Ohio, JD. 317,000 people live in, I think 300,000 of them vote, but 317,000 people live in this county. We are the 9th largest county in Ohio, and we're growing. So we are not a small county. We're not a small city. We're not a small jurisdiction. We're flipping huge. We have 2 major urban areas in this county, but we also have agriculture. We're like a plethora of diversity in this county. You know, we have suburban, we have urban, and we have agriculture. We have huge agricultural. So we're not a small area. Small nothing.
They alleged that we had created this false narrative, this false document, and then intimidated her into adopting it. That was the allegation, which is completely false. And we had all the evidence to prove it. So I was fairly confident in my case because I'm a lawyer. I was a defense attorney for 15 years before I took office. So I'm fairly knowledgeable about what constitutes a good case or not. And I had a great case. But the stress that it put on my family and my mother and my father.
So you see, the whole opening of JD on this episode drove me absolutely insane because, and I'll tell you why, because he's full of shit. He is absolutely full of it. That chick blackmailed him. And he's not saying it. And I get why he's not saying it. You want to save face. You want to maybe resurrect some sort of a resemblance of a career. Don't mind me while when I'm talking at you, not looking at you. I'm trying to open this Battistelli file for you. Tomlinson files. Here we go. You know, none of that story that he just told makes sense. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to cover for Jen, which drives me absolutely insane because this chick worked against you starting in January of 2024 after you broke up with her again. And where are the Van Zandt screenshots? You all can access this, by the way. I'm going to share my screen right now with you. So I'm not mumbling at you. Hold on. Where are you? I'm back. Okay. So he's trying to cover for Jennifer. And the story is so much more convoluted than just I defend, and no offense, the Head Start case is a huge case. Look it up. Nancy Smith, wrongfully convicted of horrible crimes. We'll get to that later. But this entire persecution of JD Tomlinson stemmed from him not assigning a special prosecutor to investigate 2 other elected officials in this county. And it's literally the premise of my RICO case and sex lies in county government here on Mean Street News. We had a commissioner that tried to steer $6.5 million contract and then ultimately did steer that contract. It was rescinded. As soon as it was rescinded, it became an election football, the safety forces, the Democrats, labor unions, private associations were going after these elected officials, which were the other new commissioner, Riddell, and seasoned veteran at that time, Commissioner David Moore. And I say that because he got beat up the worst in the first 3 years of this. He's came out the other side of that, but they wanted to, the sheriff's office wanted to get a special prosecutor. And what my belief is, my theory, on behalf of Michelle Hung for rescinding this radio contract. And I'll prove it because I have the letters back and forth all throughout, and which is what I'm going to show you guys now. And then we're gonna see how innocent Miss Battistelli is. That chick set JD up, and JD is like that like beat up man. Like you ever seen The Hangover? Like, go, bro, she beats you, and he's like, yeah, but I deserved it. That's JD. That's JD. If you go to, I want to make sure I'm small here so you guys can see this. If you go to meanstreetnews.com and you go to Lorain County Files and just hit Lorain County Files, okay? And I'm just showing you this. I already have it up on my other screen. I just want to show you so you know. And you go to Google Drive investigation files and you go to the Ohio 4, all of their documents are up there. You can, well, maybe the link's not working. Oh, it's not good. Anyways, the Lorain County radio investigation, okay? And then you're going to go down to Tomlinson. I'm going to show you all the, I can sit here and talk at you, but I like to show you the documents. Like, I'm not just talking out of my, what. These are campaign reports. I don't want those. And I do all this work myself, by myself. So all this I've had to read. So you're welcome. So you don't have to. And I'm interested in it because I lived it, but I came in on the ass end of it. So if you go to Battistelli file, you can see all of her employee records, the lawsuit. She wanted to sue us after this whole debacle for another $350,000 after settlement. But anyways, back to my original point. JD Tomlinson would not go after 2 sitting elected commissioners. And the only way I can explain this really clear to you while I'm talking at you so I don't get lost. Canva. Oh shit, no, I don't want Canvas. I want Canva. 2 seconds. My old one. I'm not going to show you the new one yet because the new one's like massive and I did it on Adobe. I kind of fixed the whole framing of it so it's a little more clear for some people. And it's bigger. It's a lot bigger. More players got added to it, but that's a surprise for Saturday. Come on. This thing hates me sometimes. I got a new laptop, so it shouldn't be lagging how it was. I realized my old laptop was, what do you call it? Here we go. From 2018, I'm like, oh, well, that might be, we might want to update this, which I did. So everything should be a little better. Okay. So here is where we're at today. Okay. This is what we're going to explain. But this is a part of this entire web. Okay. It's a radio contract. Now, this guy, JD Tomlinson, right here, would not go after, these 2 guys on behalf of her, who was having an affair with this guy who she was deciding about to hire back in 2021. And they wanted to award this guy a big contract. And they used all of these people to lobby on behalf of this private vendor. And they used the safety forces, mostly Democrat, and huge Democrat because labor union, all that. I gotta stop saying, But the sheriff was lobbying for this radio contract as well. And when the radio contract was rescinded in 2023, Sheriff Phil Smitty, and Captain Van Zandt, because he's the one that did the radio investigation, he wanted the Lorain County prosecutor, Democrat as well, Democrat. Okay, get it? Wanted him to investigate these 2 for rescinding the radio contract, insinuating that they were pushing the contract for another vendor on behalf of this evil bitch. And I am confident in saying that she's evil. But she also had leverage on him. And I'm not going to get into it. If you've heard about the videos, you've heard about the video, whatever. But when he, over the course of 2023 and 2024, during, getting closer to election season, would not assign a special prosecutor to go after these 2, okay? They then started to leverage her, who in 2023, and I want to be really, really clear about this, okay? And she, by the way, had been working with him, sexting. There's sexting messages between these 2, Captain Robert Van Zandt. I don't think he's captain anymore. I think he got demoted, or he was on, there's an investigation going on. I want to see the result of that. But they, okay, started colluding against him, and she cooperated with them. And she cooperated with the sheriff's investigation. And in my other time, at my Adobe thing, there is Kenny Lou on this one? No. So an attorney approached her in April of 2024 after she's done working. She doesn't work for the prosecutors anymore. It's not associated with them or anything like that. Except that she got a $100,000 settlement in 2023. And that settlement was out of the prosecutor's budget, approved by the commissioners, but then also approved by the county auditor, where the buck stops. They then used that settlement in 2023 to, in 2024, start investigating the Lorain County prosecutor at the time, JD Tomlinson. Now, why do I say the radio thing? And if you have been here for, any amount of time, you would know, because, and people can think I'm crazy, but here are the letters. Stemetti, 10/24/23, requesting a special prosecutor to look into this CCI radio contract. And that's just one, okay? And you can go in here. I showed you how to get in here. But there's Tomlinson. There's a 425 letter requesting a response for his request for the L3 Harris radio contract. The Attorney General declined to get involved and assign a special prosecutor. He then shopped for one, and then at some point he's like, this is not the auditor state is supposedly investigating this, and I say supposedly because they botched that one. The Attorney General's supposed to be has been informed about this. So, and there's also a court case. So between all three of those, this will get worked out. I don't think it's it's useful for your resources to then, investigate further and get a special prosecutor where we're going to be paying that bill, by the way, the taxpayers, which is, it's Lawfare. So what did he do eventually? And then the 4/4/24 letter, which is huge, which I got dropped off in the mailbox for me, comes up, and it goes, this letter is the one you got to read, the 4/4/24 letter. And I have a thing with twos. So I'm like, this is just, it goes over how Captain Van Zandt is sexting and harassing Jennifer Battistelli, how the now prosecutor, Tony Silva, who you'll hear about later, is now harassing during the time that they worked together, Jennifer Battistelli, but is still reaching out to her. Now, they try to make Jennifer look like a victim, right? She's not a fucking victim, you guys. She's absolutely not. And I'm just gonna, you guys can, I have a TikTok, meanstreetnews.com, also Instagram, Mean Street News, or at Mean Street News. And I have put up, me and my husband read Jennifer's depositions. We have, she was black. She was extorting him. She was manipulating him. And I don't know why JD sticks up for her. I don't understand that relationship. But JD is not completely innocent in all of this. Not by a long run. And when it comes to Ohio 4, he originally ignored it because he was being basically annihilated. And now this whole thing with the court cases is also weird too, which he never discusses, but that's for another time. But I want to play for you guys. I'm not just going through randomness. I want to play for you guys because I've covered this extensively. Jennifer Battistelli. Actually, no, I don't. I don't want to do that yet. I'm going to wait. We're going to go to the next clip. But that's my point. That's why it doesn't make sense. JD's like, oh, we were just in love and they used my relationship and I don't know why. No. This all has to do with a radio contract. And why do I know that? Is because that Commissioner Michelle Hung, she said it. And I'm going to play it real quick for you. She said it on the news. The prosecutor wasn't handling cases that we wanted him to handle. So he's no longer our prosecutor. Now, this is a supposedly Republican, Michelle. She ended up signing with Democrats her first 6 months in to office because she wanted to steer a contract for a private vendor. And that's all. She is the premise of the RICO, one of the main characters. But she even said in 2024 during election season, I don't have a county prosecutor. He's not basically prosecuting David Moore, my Republican counterparts, David Moore and Jeff Riddell, for rescinding this contract that I wanted to go through and I fought so hard for 2 years and promised the safety forces, even though it's a bad contract. It's a bad contract. It was a bad deal. And what they did instead is great. Is a great for what it is. It's so much better, so much cheaper.
County Commissioner Michelle Hung says Tomlinson has repeatedly refused to look into issues she and others have raised and believes Lorain County does not have a prosecutor. Fellow Commissioner Dave Moore says the timing of the charges are suspect. He calls the situation bad for everyone and says it paints the county in an unflattering light.
Yeah, it paints the county in a corrupt light. Now, while all this is happening, and this is what we're going to get to in the next clip, while all this is happening with JD, and JD is the shit that a couple clips I'll play for you later is just ridiculous with Jennifer. But I want to play them as they're talking about the sexting and all that. And I'm going to show you text messages between this Captain Van Zandt, who I think was demoted. I don't know if he's a captain anymore, but he still works there. And, but while this is going on, this Ohio 4 case is going on. Josh Dubin, I guess, from the Perlmutter Center is trying to get a hold of JD. And I guess JD kind of knew of the case, but JD was ghosting him. And JD ghosted him all the way up until, which I get it. He was trying to survive himself, but I think he should have just seen, he was already out to pasture. But he had not only felony cases in municipal court, which that whole thing is fucking janky. The lady that recused, the law director that recused herself, that's a whole nother episode. That's another episode. I can't get into it now, but it adds on to this. This whole thing is so convoluted, but they're so dumb. It just connects. But while this is going on, Josh Dubin's trying to get old JD. JD's ignoring him, and we're about to get to those clips. So I'm just going to shut up for a second. We have a lot to get through today. So I'm like, 320 clip 2. So JD's going to get into the fact that they hired after. Yeah, make sure I share my screen. I didn't see. He's now going to talk about how the sheriff's office, right before the election season, before these charges ensued, this is Jennifer worked for the prosecutor's office in 2023. She received a settlement in October of 2023. She was gone. Okay, 2020. I want you to keep that in your head. 2023, this bitch was gone. She got a settlement. The prosecutor's budget paid it out. They didn't, they figured it out in their budget. The commissioners approved the prosecutor's budget requisition for budget expenditure, and the Lorain County auditor. This is just the process, which it's really irritating me. People never bring it up. The Lorain County auditor was where the buck stopped. If he thought there was some kind of fraud, that's who should be being investigated, because he's the one that wrote the checks, and wrote them in the manner that they wrote them. And honestly, people, it would have been her salary for the next year and a half that she would have been on with them. It really is like a severance pay. I really, as much as I don't want to pay it, like fighting the dirty, grimy stuff she did to JD. And she never filed the EOC complaint, by the way. Her attorney, she filled it out, and her attorney got it notarized, and her attorney was like, we can file this. And the county was like, no. And it's a cost benefit analysis of fighting it. You know what I mean? But it's very well documented. Jennifer did what she did to lose her job, and then lost her friggin' temper, stormed out, and then quit. That's why she didn't get unemployment. She wasn't getting unemployment. She needed money. You know what I mean? And my theory, my summation after reviewing hundreds of documents, And he's just, oh, we were just in love. Like he's like an idiot. Like I don't get it sometimes with people. I really don't. Okay. I don't mean to get mad, but it's like, this chick. You know what I mean? Like we've all met those people. So now we're going to talk about, I want to show you guys this real quick before I jump on the video clip. Because I hate when people talk about people and you can't put like a face to like the name. It drives me absolutely bonkers. So JD is going to talk about how in 2023, the guy that ran against him, Dennis Wills, an attorney also, former Elyria police chief, worked in the county prosecutor's office, and I believe had an opportunity to review this case, but I don't really see his name on anything, so don't hold me to that. Started working for the sheriff, Phil Smitty. It was the first time the sheriff's office had an attorney working as an administrative assistant for them, and especially very awkward as these two ran against each other. Now, this guy comes down, Tony Silva, who's the now prosecutor, comes down from the attorney general's office and gets a job as well as with the Lorain County Sheriff's Office, who at the same time, while all this is going on, is actively fighting J.D. Tomlinson about getting a special prosecutor assigned for his radio investigation on behalf of Commissioner Michelle Hung and Harry Williamson, because he wants this $3 million that would have came from this ended up being $7.1 million deal. And when he doesn't budge, and they even try to extort him. And if you've heard this before, you know why I'm not repeating it, but they then used her, who was a lover, I believe, my theory, my summation from information, a lover scorn. And she needed payday. Okay. But she stopped working in the county, and keep this period 2023. Okay. So while all this is going on, and she got paid in 2023. So the auditor should have said something, but this is the next clip. We're getting into how these two started working for these two. And this guy ended up running against this guy, used this relationship against him during his election season, which anybody's going to do. But also now has thrown out the Ohio 4 case that this guy filed right before he got out of office, which he honestly shouldn't have waited so long, to be honest with you. He should have done the right thing before not really thought about himself in that way. But I get it. He was trying to win an election. I think he should have seen the writing on the wall, but whatever, to each his own. He's not a victim here is my point, and nor is she.
Even a small town like that, it was dramatic. So that's really what happened. But what they alleged that we had created this false narrative, this false document, and then intimidated her into adopting it. That was the allegation, which is completely false. And we had all the evidence to prove it. So I was fairly confident in my case because I'm a lawyer. I was a defense attorney for 15 years before I took office. So I'm fairly knowledgeable about what constitutes a good case or not. And I had a great case. But the stress that it put on my family and my mother and my father, just awful. You know, I have nieces and nephews. I'm a bachelor, but I've got nieces and nephews with my last name, and that really bothered me. And so while I'm battling with this, the interesting thing, I'm charged on October 1st. On October 4th, and once we broke up in 23, they had kind of been courting her because they knew that she was my weakness. That the contentious relationship, and I think they were hoping that they would turn her on me.
That's true.
And so they did as much as to exploit and try to utilize our relationship against me. In fact, the lead detective that was investigating us was attempting to sleep with her at the same time. Attempting to sleep with her. I have text messages asking for nude photographs, asking to go over her house. This is while he's investigating me, Joe. He's trying to sleep with my girlfriend. Saying stuff like, you should get back at him. You should get back at him.
How dumb is this guy to make this in text message?
Okay, we're going to see him. I'm going to show you him before we move on because I like to show you. This is the difference between me and a lot of other people is I want to show you. I want you to see. Hold on. Did we get out of there? Hold on. Oh, files. Oh, yeah, if John Morrow saw that, that's a big file on you, buddy. I do not like you. Tomlinson files. I just want to show you these text messages. Well, he's about to talk about them. So he's saying this. Now these are text messages between Robert Van Zandt, which is okay, and these were filed in the filings, court filings. Okay, this was filed in court filings. I didn't just pull this out of I pulled this out of my mailbox and then I got it in the court filings. In Amherst across the street. Now this is January 7th of 2024. Okay, you down for pics? Was trying to get to her house before then. You down for pics? You want to send me pics? And there's more. Not just like one. This is her to JD. Oh yeah, she's one of those. Captain Van Zandt, come on. Here we go. Bobby Van Zandt. Are you available tomorrow sometime? Can I call you? January 23rd, can I call you? How are you feeling? Yeah, I had a couple weeks ago. I'm fine. Now, we didn't get her responses. I certainly don't want to, but you're in harm's way. But I believe I can help you, and ensuring your help could help a few more. I wonder who those few more are. You know what I mean? Now, my thing with her is that she, at this point, had signed an NDA with the county for that $100,000 settlement. I want the money back. You violated it. Like, I know this is a investigation, but like, you weren't working for the county anymore. It wasn't like the prosecutor was like, you were a private citizen. And then he said in January, girl, JD sold you out in the paper. When are you going to set him start and get back at him? Now, this is sheriff's office. At that point, he was lieutenant. Van Zandt, he got a promotion, captain, and then he got demoted, I think, and he's under investigation. When are you going to set him start and get back at him on how he's doing you? It's not right. Just saying. January 17th, you would be willing to meet with me and the guy from the FBI. They have some questions about JD and your settlement. It will not hurt anything to have in any way, and you'll be able to obtain whistleblower status. Think about it, please. There is a lot he has done, is continuing to do that is wrong, not only to you, but others. Or you'll be able to call me sometimes. Thumbs up. We don't know what you said. I would love to see the response. But she was also recording. We noticed from her text messages, recording calls, recording her texts. I'm sure that was January 11th of 2024. And you'll get this because the charges aren't filed till October. She starts releasing during his election season, starts releasing these. Well, I don't think it was her specifically, but somebody got a hold of her phone and her passcodes and started sending these horrible little 30-second clips. Want to send me pics? Maybe I was drinking some whiskey last night and may have meant to say you down for drinks. I mean, if you're down for pics as well, so long as I show you mine, you show me yours. No, I'm not down to send pics. No one on this planet has any sexy pics of me. It's not my thing. I may be president someday. And he laughed. But then for the next year, okay, not year, but 10 months, they go on to blackmail, work together to blackmail a prosecutor. This attorney, Kenny Lou, gets involved and decides to work, for free on her behalf. When JD tries to defend himself in the paper, she decides to try to sue the county again for $350,000. Now, at the time, she did not work for the prosecutor's office. She had already received her settlement. She signed an NDA. She should have not discussed with Van Zandt to get back at her boyfriend. You know what I mean? Her settlement, period. Which was approved by the commissioners, but then also approved by the county auditor. The county auditor paid her. If the county auditor held a check for a cow over the summer, $2,000 cow, because he thought it was somehow not appropriate, he would have, and who was also colluding with all these people, he would have held, my belief is he was colluding with all these people, my summation from information, he would have held the payment. He would have investigated immediately. And Michelle Hung approved the payment, then tried to say, oh, I knew what it was and I got a hold of the sheriff the next day, but I approved it. I thought it was just, I didn't know. Well, BS.
Messages.
I couldn't believe it when she showed.
You just want to think the people that are evil, that are manipulating people and falsely trying people, they're like evil geniuses.
Joe, it was an extraordinary. That's why at first I didn't believe it. I was like, why would he write it? Why would he do that?
That's
and
so
then she shared those messages with me. She showed me them. I didn't get to actually physically, and then later I acknowledged it. But so what it all occurred was in 2020. I won an election. I went against my own party, and I ran in a primary, and I ended up winning. And then my relationship with the sheriff, who actually ended up investigating me for this case that I'm referring to, we had pretty good.
And requesting a special prosecutor to investigate the two commissioners that JD would not assign a special prosecutor to. And that's when also investigate Jennifer Battistelli's settlement, then turn into investigating the settlement that the commissioners approved. And I know this because, and I'm not, just pulling this out of my head, they ask about Commissioner David Moore in every interview that they do with Jennifer Battistelli. If JD told him, if they met together, and she's like, no, I know nothing about that. You know what I mean? So you can see they were trying to put it together over the CCI contract. There's 7 letters between the sheriff and the prosecutor going back over a year regarding during an election season. By the way, they had the Fire Chiefs Association write a letter, the AFL-CIO, Ron Atkins, the head of the AFL-CIO. We had lawsuits, Harry's lawsuits, Hung lawsuits, CCI lawsuit. We're still in the lawsuit. I mean, like the Lawfare. That's why they compared Lorain County to the eventually will again to as a microcosm of what happened to Trump with Jack Smith in New York. Pure Lawfare.
Pretty good relationship there for the first couple of months when I got elected. I had asked for a couple of my deputies to be or a couple of my investigators to be deputized, which is a pretty standard procedure. He agreed, and then he hired the individual that I had defeated in the election, and the whole attitude changed. Everything changed. It was now very contentious. He had withdrawn his desire to deputize my investigators. The relationship turned very sour very fast when he hired my predecessor, which is unusual to have a lawyer working in the sheriff's department anyways, because statutorily I'm the lawyer for the sheriff's department. So it's an unusual move to even hire a lawyer in a sheriff's department. You could probably get 2 deputies for that kind of money. So it was unusual in a sense. And then, so the relationship just soured, and it was kind of like they were coming after me immediately. And then in late 23, they actually hired then the guy that's running against me, another lawyer who.
Which we discussed previously, so we're just going to get right into the next clip. Now, this clip, he's like, Jen, I had no idea. It's complete bullshit. It drives me absolutely insane that he does this. But I'm going to play a meme for you after this one that I'm like, this is JD. Like, she beats you. I'm like, what are you talking about? I think there's more here that we're not seeing. I don't really understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand why he's not saying what the real reason is. He lived it. He should know. He defended himself. Like, I'm not going to. He went against his party. You know what I mean? He went against the other. Against a lot of people, and it blew up in his face because they had people around him that were compromised. I believe that was on purpose, to be honest with you. It's always nice to have a prosecutor in your pocket. And I'm not saying that he was. I'm saying they attempted to. And for this one thing, the special prosecutor thing, he held out. And I got to give him respect for that.
Asking to go over her house. This is while he's investigating me, Joe. He's trying to sleep with my girlfriend. Saying stuff like, you should get back at him. You should get back at him.
How dumb is this guy to make this in text messages?
I couldn't believe it when she showed.
You just want to think the people that are evil, that are manipulating people.
Oh, I hate when I do that. I played the wrong one. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm in clip 4. Get right into clip 4. I hate when I repeat that. Where's Lawfare? All right, this is where we're getting the Lawfare, which is what I was just getting into. All the lawsuits started, all the craziness, and she was absolutely a part of it.
We just got to fight our way out, and it had been that way for a year. So I was kind of I was stressed. It was very difficult to think about focusing my mind on anything else other than trying to exonerate myself first.
Which is also good for your opponents because it makes you bad at your job.
And now he's getting into the Ohio 4, like, I'm not paying attention. I'm not, I'm trying to fight over here against these people. And I let this case go. He's going to say it. But then he's going to jump back too. So we're going to jump all over it. That's why I didn't think the episode was that cohesive. Like, it was kind of confusing. It's like, your story's not making sense.
Awful. It gums everything up.
Of course.
I started to understand how on a national level what effects that has.
Imagine what Trump went through.
It's the same. It's a similar thing.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't care what your opinion is of that man. To have the mettle to face what he faced and continue on a path of getting anything accomplished, let alone what he accomplished. If you don't stand up and cheer for that, no, the human cost of these prosecutions, you're hearing it right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still haven't gotten over it.
The lawfare is very un-American. Well, it's a very un-American thing.
We just got to.
When they say lawfare, they mean charging this guy with crimes, because they didn't only charge him with a crime in this municipal court hearing, that was filed a week before early voting started, 30 days before the election. No. July, the Lorain County Sheriff not only filed charges to get a special prosecutor in this investigation that he was conducting, but also then another one to investigate the prosecutor himself. Wanted a outside judge to assign a special prosecutor to investigate the prosecutor himself in regards to this Battistelli. Well, that's what it was said in the paper. I don't really know what it is because it's all under seal. We can't see any of it. In Lorain County municipal, and I think there's crossover here, because then I think because they were under a gag, kind of like you weren't allowed to speak about it in the paper or anything, they then went over and finagled some shit in Elyria, because you don't file felony charges in municipal court. They filed this complaint to honestly, it was political. Like, their case was, I have more on their case. I have more on the case. I mean, their filings are in there, but I have more on this case than O'Brien had. I mean, they didn't even have a cooperating witness apparently at the time. And even them saying that you were intimidating by a letter, she didn't work for the prosecutor's office at the time. She had already received her settlement. She's no freaking victim. She was continuing to sleep with him, knowing he was sleeping with other people. Like, it was a shit show. She wanted to hurt him, and she did. And she wanted to hurt his election, and she did. And they wanted to hurt his election, and they did. But using law, just smearing him, and also because he didn't cooperate with their agenda in certain aspects. Not only the Nancy Smith case, but the CCI contract. I mean, those you had all safety. I mean, it's insane. And the law, it's just like what happened with the Jack Smith case. I mean, even the commissioners went through it. It's very similar. Because when they rescinded this contract, all hell broke loose. And you have to remember that Dave Moore was one of the commissioners that they wanted to be investigated, was going through an election at this time. So don't think that they weren't pulling out all the freaking stops there to smear him. It was a mess. It was, I've never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. But, that's why he didn't pick up this Ohio 4. Now, I think that's a bullshit excuse. I think he could have sooner just kind of understood, everybody knew where JD was in the situation. You were screwed. You know what I mean? Just hands down. He should have filed sooner. He should have got a hold sooner. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know what I mean? The fact that he did. But what in turn happens is kind of insane. The guy that's running against JD, Tony Slows, the now prosecutor, starts to I'm gonna play the clip. He starts to get involved in the Ohio 4 investigation, and then the Ohio Attorney General as well, which is and that's who he used to, Tony Slow, the new incoming, used to work for. Then the judge, You'll hear it. I'm going to just shut up for a second. I feel like I'm mumbling now. I want you to see it. I want you to make an opinion as well. We're going to talk about lawfare, though, first. And then we're going to get right into it.
And continue on a path of getting anything accomplished, let alone what he accomplished. If you don't
But you get nothing done.
Stand up and cheer for that, no, the human cost of these prosecutions, you're hearing it right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still haven't gotten over it.
This
The
is
lawfare is very un-American.
well,
it's a very un-American thing to do, to unjustly accuse someone of crimes and use your position of power to try to arrest that person and jail that person. That's very un-American.
well, you know,
That's how we should all look at it. Instead of looking at it in terms of like parties and this is, you know, these are my people. This is against me. This is for me. It's bad for the country.
It is
real bad for the country. We are supposed to represent freedom on the.
This is the best couple minutes of this entire episode is what he says right here. And this is why I even care about this, Rico, about the taxpayer dollars misused, misappropriated, the contracts gotten into, it is on what they did is un-American, left, right, center. I don't care what you are. And honestly, I call them the purple people leaders. Red and blue make purple. They work for the same side, same point.
On the world stage, we're supposed to be the people that have the most freedom of speech, the most freedom of expression, the best path to success. If you're this is supposed to be a place where everybody gets a shot. And if you allow the system to unjustly accuse and prosecute people for crimes that are demonstrably false, that's very, very un-American. And that's how we should look at it. I mean, instead of this fucking fuck my enemies, us versus them, you're kind of committing treason. You're kind of ruining everyone's. If you could pull it off, you ruin our faith in what this thing is supposed to be.
Well, look, I think that quite obviously there are prosecutions that need to happen when someone commits a violent crime, when there's domestic abuse, when there's robbery, all of that. That's not
for sure.
What should not be lost on people, because you saw it play out on a national stage with the president. You are now hearing about it in a smaller, not a small town, but
we are not small. We are the 9th largest county in Ohio, 317,000 population and growing. We are growing. We are a county that is growing, and we are all over the board economically. So, and we're going to be growing there as well. So we are not small. We are the 9th largest county, top 10. We made the top 10 of Ohio and growing.
Smaller jurisdiction. And the irony of this, well, it struck me as I was speaking to JD the first time, is here's a man that's fighting for his life. And I mean, I'll confess to you, I used it to say, I continually said to JD, imagine you have to go through this for 30 years
it's not even
behind bars. So when I finally got through to him that night, we must have spoke 8 times that night.
Yeah, he's going to give him a verbal BJ right here, to be honest with you, and I don't really want to hear it. Like, oh, that night you decided to call me after your charges were dropped, and, then we decided to, whatever. Anyways, we're going to play the next clip. We only have like 2 more clips of him, and then I'm going to play you some fun ones. Come on, why are you doing this? I have a new laptop, so give me a second. Work with me, people. Work with me. It's late. I'm doing this late because I don't want to do it early morning. Shh. I have other shh to do. Let's see. 6. Now, he's going to get back into the power. Like when people do stuff for power, it's just a real quick. I just love what he says here. It's like, that comment, it's just wrong.
when people play games, they cheat. I see people cheat at pool. I've seen professionals cheat at pool. I've seen people cheat at cards. I've seen people cheat at everything. People cheat. They want to win. It's a horrible byproduct of that instinct that we have to win when attached to a legal system that could lead innocent people to be prosecuted. I was listening to a podcast today about the founding of Jerusalem. And it was, in one of the cases, was a guy who,
I mean, what are we willing to sacrifice to win? And, it is, one thing I do want to mention about Tony Slowy before they get more into him, the prosecutor now, is that he ran as a Republican. But if you look up Tony Slowy's voting record, he pulled a Republican ticket in 2023 because he knew his party was split, the Democrat Party that he had always been a part of, but nobody Republican was running, and he decided to run against JD as a Republican. And I think that in itself is a falsity and lying to voters. And, don't tell me in 2023, you all of a sudden after 20 years had a revelation that you're now a Republican. Bullshit. It's just, and I don't care. It's just, I do care. I do care because you're lying to the voters, and that's just wrong to me. Like, be who you are. Be honest. You want to, whatever, and be honest. Okay. So we're going to get into the Ohio 4. We're going to start talking about the Ohio 4 case here. 7, 8, 9. We only have 2 more after this. And some funny ones.
But it was almost therapeutic for me because I had been so much stress on my own case. It was nice to divert attention away from me and try to think about something else. Right. So I really immersed myself in it. And I went to crime scene, which I always believe defense attorneys should go to. Every case I had, I went to the crime scene. I learned something that I didn't know. But I eventually got there, and it was extraordinary. Though not only was this case just on this individual Avery Jr.'s testimony, he might have been the worst witness I've ever seen in my life. I mean, so not only was there no physical evidence that linked these men to it, the only witness that was present was perhaps the worst I'd ever seen.
And what the federal court is saying is that, yeah, they could damage his credibility at trial, but they didn't know, obviously, because he does it later, that he made the whole thing up. And they didn't know that he's admitted he made the whole thing up. And importantly, who walks in unsolicited to the FBI and says, here's what I did, and I want to clear my conscience, and I want to tell you what I did.
That'd be a hell of a double cross.
Yeah, and it's a crime to lie.
And I started to feel like, oh, okay, we're about to get hometown, small town, something bad is happening here, because this should have been a moment to, here we are, myself, my co-counsel, we're about to change the trajectory, not of just these 4 men's lives, but of their families that have lived under the crushing weight of these wrongful convictions for 3 decades. My client, John Edwards, and Al Cleveland, and the other 2 as well, Lenworth and Benson, John is in, Al is out, but Al is suffering, the most horrific psychological damage you can imagine. And John calls me from prison all the time. JD tells us that he is going to file a joint motion, joint meaning between defense counsel and the prosecutor, to grant these men a new trial. That's the procedural mechanism.
Based on new evidence.
Based on new evidence, which is the 2004 recantation.
Which they never had the benefit of taking to trial. That evidence was never seen.
And then the 2006 affidavit. And that once the new trial was granted, he would dismiss the case. So that all gets filed in front of one judge, because it really should have been a matter of procedure. And all
Now, before we get into this, I just want to be very clear. It's going to ultimately be derailed, but it's the way in which it was derailed. So JD, what he did was the last 2 months he was in office, and they knew this was gonna. I want to be very clear with you all. They knew this was gonna be a long stretch. You know what I mean? They knew about the hostility between the two candidates and the incoming new prosecutor Tony Sillo's relationship with the legacy prosecutor's office, because I probably haven't mentioned yet, but I've mentioned in previous episodes, Tony Sillo, excuse me, Tony Sillo worked for the prosecutor's office for 20 some odd years, and he left when JD came on board, and kind of, it's in that 4/4/24 letter that I showed you. Basically calls him, insufficient, and that he only, handled too many cases, kind of demoted him a little bit, and he wasn't happy, so he went over to the Attorney General's office for 13 months, and then went to the sheriff's office, and then now county prosecutor again. So after all of this, which I just think is whatever, but anyways, so they're going to get into what happened in the Ohio 4 case. Now, before they do, though, I do want to show you guys, because it is important, and I'm going to give you my ulterior motive, what happened in this case, based on the evidence that I'm going to provide, keyword, provide all of you, because I don't like when people talk at me and they don't have the evidence for me. So if you go to Lorain County Files, my website, go to the Ohio 4, you're going to scroll down, and I put the characters. Now, this is John Edwards, Benson Davis, Lemworth, and Alfred. These two are out on parole. These two are still in prison. Now, I have provided the original police reports. You can go through and read these where I marked up with pertinent information, John Edwards' testimony, Lenworth Edwards' testimony, like the best of I went through hundreds of documents and got the best so you guys can see what was said. William Avery Jr., the witness, his testimony, his recantation, what happened after the fact. So here's the documents that back up what I'm proposing happened. William Avery Jr., again, he added the Gateway Plaza after the contempt charge, where he withdrew his witness testimony. Jeremiah Charlton, that wasn't really mentioned much, and where he came from. He was a witness to Marsha's whereabouts that night. Mary Jean Gonzalez saw Marsha the night, a couple hours before she was murdered. Leonard Walker, he is a person of interest, I believe, in my theory, summation, just based on evidence. William Muncie and Gwen Muncie, his sister, and what they told police. What I found interesting is William Muncie, which you guys will hear about shortly, is actually the one that brought up, brought up the Ohio 4 to investigators originally, and that was in here a couple of days after. Now, when police originally approached William Muncie the day of Marsha's murder to question, if he saw her and this and other thing, they arrived at his house. He ran. He was like losing his shit when they pulled up, and then he fled, and they found him later that day. But he was, one to mention before originally. Now, if you go down, you can also see all of the podcasts that I have covered the Ohio 4 rallies here in Ohio and beyond. But I just wanted to show you here, we're providing you evidence, and I'll fix that link for the files themselves, where you can just, if you go right here to the Ohio, election interference, prosecutor Thomas FM motions. You go documents provided by Josh Dubin, you click here. You can get all of those files on this website, freetheohio4.com. All the exhibits are in this Dropbox, which I love because it just makes life easier. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. And then we're now going to get into what happened after the election was over, after the charges were immediately dropped after the election. And there's more to that, but I want to wait until I get into Amanda Derry and all those connections and not confuse you all on the same day. 1 second. Oh my gosh. Hold on.
I started to feel like, oh, okay, we're about to get home under the crushing weight of these wrongful convictions for 3 decades. My client, John Edwards, and Al Cleveland, and the other two as well, Lenworth and Benson, John is in, Al is out, but Al is suffering, the most horrific psychological damage you can imagine. And John calls me from prison all the time. JD tells us that he is going to file a joint motion, joint meaning between defense counsel and the prosecutor, to grant these men a new trial. That's the procedural mechanism.
Based on new evidence.
Based on new evidence, which is the 2004 recantation.
Which they never had the benefit of taking to trial. That evidence was never seen.
And then the 2006 affidavit. And that once the new trial was granted, he would dismiss the case. So that all gets filed in front of one judge because it really should have been a matter of procedure. In all my years of doing this, 25 years, 24 years, I've never seen a judge do anything other than have the hearing and respect what the prosecutor has filed for and asked for, especially when it's joined by the defense. So all of a sudden, the judge that this is filed before is silent. Now, the clock is ticking because now we have the whole month of December. And after January 6th, he's out of office. And right away, within a few days of us filing this joint motion, there's a newspaper article that comes out. What's your local paper again?
Chronicle Telegram.
The Chronicle Telegraph. Telegraph or Telegram? The Chronicle Telegram, and it has the person that just defeated him in the election. His name is Tony Sillo. It has comments from him and from this prosecutor Rosenberg saying that I don't understand what the rush is. I don't understand, essentially saying, wait until I take office, Tony Sillo, take office, and I want to review this. And I thought that was really interesting because he's someone that worked in that office. He's someone that actually played a role in some of the investigation that I believe should have taken place when he was a prosecutor in that office. And he did not have the benefit of the thorough investigation that JD had done. And he's a private citizen until he takes office. So I found that to be interesting. And all of a sudden, a brief gets filed from the Attorney General of Ohio saying, whoa, it's a brief that gets filed to the court where we filed this joint motion for a new trial. And the Attorney General gets involved. You don't have to look far to see other attorney generals getting involved in criminal cases, right? That's happened on a national stage, happened in New York. And he basically is taking the position that this man, this should all wait until Tony Sillo takes office. And I thought, this is weird. Why? Then I come to find out that Tony Sillo used to work at the Attorney General's office. So I started to have hope when the judge, one of the judges in the case, because I won't bore you with the details, but the cases get sent out to different judges that were assigned to each man's case. And what the judge says is the AG's motion, this is a quote, this is from an order from the Honorable Chris Cook. The AG, and this is dated December 23rd, the AG's motion is not to advocate for either party to this litigation, which in most situations is the sole purpose of filing an amicus brief, but instead to ask this court to delay ruling on the pending motions until such time as the newly elected Lorain County prosecutor is in office and the victims can be notified. Neither of these purported reasons to opine on this litigation are persuasive or necessary to aid the court. First, the AG argues that the current prosecutor will be leaving office shortly, referring to JD, within the next 2 weeks, in fact, and any ruling should be delayed in order to allow the incoming prosecutor to evaluate the matter and weigh in on the issues. But this reason is hardly compelling. After all elected officials eventually leave office, and to suggest that simply because a newly elected prosecutor is taking over, a pending matter should be delayed for the incoming official to review is unwieldy, inconvenient, invites delay, and not how the system operates. Moreover, why should rulings or evaluation of this case be singled out and subject to delay in favor of the new administration, but not the other 150 pending criminal cases on this court's docket? At the end of the day, the concept that a court or any government entity, for that matter, should come to a grinding halt because a newly elected official will be taking over is not how until Tony Sillo takes office. And I thought, this is weird. What? One of the judges in the case, because I won't bore you with the details, but the case judge situations is the sole purpose of filing an amicus brief. But this reason is hardly compelling. After all elected officials eventually leave office, and to suggest that simply because a newly elected prosecutor is taking over, a pending matter should be delayed for the incoming official to review is unwieldy, inconvenient, invites delay, and not how the system operates. Moreover, why should rulings or evaluation of this case be singled out and subject to delay in favor of the new administration, but not the other 150 pending criminal cases on this court's docket? At the end of the day, the concept that a court or any government entity, for that matter, should come to a grinding halt because a newly elected official will be taking over is not how government should or does work.
Shout out to that guy.
Yeah. Put that thought on hold, because 3 days later, now this is curious. What changes in 3 days? Well, I don't know if it happened during these 3 days, but this is the prosecutor. I mean, this is the judge that swears in the new prosecuting attorney. 3 days later, there is another order filed by the same judge. And because we had moved for an emergency hearing, because in our mind, this incoming prosecutor opines on the case in the paper, had worked at that prosecutor's office, and obviously had some feeling about the case. And if he had taken such an interest in talking to the press, we were concerned and filed an emergency motion not to let these men suffer any longer. So the same judge that you just said shout out, which was exactly my sentiment, issues another order. You could not get a more stark 180-degree turn than this. I'm going to quote from that order. How can it be possibly an emergency that a hearing and potential ruling be accomplished in a matter of weeks for a case and cases that have been pending for almost 3 decades, not to mention 4 years on the current prosecutor's watch? Moreover, no rational person would conclude that a change in county prosecutor constitutes an emergency. An inconvenience to the movements, arguably, a delay in rulings, no doubt, but an emergency, I don't think so. In addition to the lack of emergency, 2 additional but troubling issues are apparent by this motion. This is 3 days later. First, The movements go to great pains to paint the incoming prosecutor as incapable of fairly and rationally evaluating the defendant's claims of innocence and requests for new trial. To pause there, because this man had sat and listened to and dove through and tore through this entire trial record. So, yeah, we had concerns that we would face further delay. It already agreed. We filed. This is oftentimes right away. The court will call a hearing and grant the relief. So the judge goes on to say this effort is unfounded. Contra the movement's reliance on a newspaper article, that's the one I was talking about. The same article quotes Prosecutor-elect Sillo as saying he would review the matter anew, just like Prosecutor Tomlinson did. And it goes on to say, second, even more troubling is the movement's assertion that Tomlinson's successor has no authority to review agreements made by Tomlinson. I've never seen this in an opinion before. Oh, really? With a question mark. The movement's right that Mr. Tomlinson's successor has an obligation to honor the good faith decisions made by the prior administration, JD. And it then goes on to use the Head Start case, the Nancy Smith case and Joe Allen, where he granted these people, he exonerated these people. He then goes on to throw it in their face, in my opinion. He says, recall the Head Start case. And he goes through personalizing this and saying that because J.D. Tomlinson exonerated these people, thereby undoing a prior administration's prosecution, that why should the same not apply to you? So in other words, 3 days before he says, why should justice wait? 3 days later, he says, what? Wait a second. This should wait. And it should wait. And by the way, here's one to poke this man in the eye because he exonerated people. You're undermining the decision of a prior administration. So he's using his granting of innocence, in my opinion, to now go back on what he said 3 days earlier, which is why should this wait? What happened in these 3 days? I don't know. But I can tell you that you've taken position A and then you've taken position Z. So what happens is on these judges, one of the judges, the one that denied Al Cleveland post-conviction relief that, said to Avery Jr., there are potential consequences here. He denies the joint motion for a new trial for Al Cleveland based on nothing. He doesn't call a hearing. This is in December. He says, I'm denying it. This man, Sillo, takes office. All the other judges deny it, by the way, or delay it. The other judges punt until the new prosecutor comes to office. And you don't think this is personal? This man's second day in office, Tony Sillo takes office. His first order of business is to withdraw the joint motion on behalf of the state. So he undoes everything that we did because he worked at that office, because he's friends with these guys. I don't know.
Well, I will say Tony Sillo had, all that time while he was in office to, look into this case. It was brought up in appeals while he was working as Lorain County prosecutor. And the fact that it wasn't withdrawn the second day, the defense had a right to, respond to his withdrawal, and then he had to respond to their response for the withdrawal, and then ultimately it was dismissed. It's done, and this is where you just. And you're speechless. And then what did happen in those 3 days? That is a question. And I'm not gonna, be able to answer that, but it's very weird that you take a stance and then, go for the opposite. This is the last clip, and then we're going to get into the actual. I'm going to give you guys some little new revelations that I covered in a previous podcast. But what I think is a plausible explanation for what happened the night of Marsha Blakely and Floyd Epps' murder, and it doesn't. It was in the file. It's in the files, and any kind of sleuth on investigations and stuff, you could put two and two together.
I don't know anything about him, but I do find I find it really difficult to understand why he took such an interest in this case, such that he blocked justice from happening and withdrew the state's position. How about hear us out and meet with us before you withdraw the joint motion to dismiss? How about that? How about you hear the evidence before making it the first official act or among the first official acts? It's so.
He even says in the paper within that time frame, no more plea deals. And what do you think he was referring to?
I'm not optimistic going in, but I can tell you this. I have found something as recent as yesterday where alternative suspects.
Okay, I don't care about his theory here on alternative suspects, because if he hasn't yet put two and two together on this, I don't know how he hasn't. And me and you are right now are going to put two and two together on this. So I covered this in my podcast a few weeks ago when I started going through all the evidence and reading. I kind of put it together and figured out who your alternative suspect could be. It'd be just based off of the transcripts and everything. And it's going to take us 4 little mini clips to get through. And I'm not going to talk to you because I already you said this. Now, where we're going to start before we get to who done it, you know what I mean? 2 people saw Marsha Blakely the night that she was killed, and I want to review that before we wrap it up with the 4. Okay? And then I'm going to ask you tomorrow, I'm going to post a template to send to the Lorain County Prosecutor asking you to email him a letter requesting this case be actually fairly looked into. And the one thing that the judge said is that the new administration should give a fair chance to what the previous administration did, and it doesn't look to me like that was done here. Hold on, it's freezing on me. Here we go. I want to talk about the night of the murder and what I believe, my theory on what happened, just based on testimonies and stuff that I have read. And I'm going to quickly go through it, and you guys can go to my website to find more. Okay, so there was a woman who gave testimony, Mary Jane Gonzalez. Okay, she worked at the Shop and Play. She was a clerk. She saw Blakely at her apartment on 8/7, which is the night of the murder, 91. Now, she said it was around 11:30 p.m. It could be later. People when they recall information, you don't really know, what was going on. But she says when she saw, I'm just reading my notes, when she saw Marsha Blakely, her eye was black discolored, and she told Gonzalez she was beat up by an unknown person, debt related. And then I'm like, well, who could be this unknown person that she was beat up by, right? This is where I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to quickly go through this. I'm not going to drag you through. I want to talk about the night of the murder and what I believe, my theory on what happened, just based just based on testimonies and stuff that I read. Give me 1 second. It's messing with me. Part 1. I want part 2 right here. Boy named Marsha was looking for some dope, okay? In Charlton, Marsha was looking for some dope. She had no money. She needed dope, right? So she got a hold of this guy, Jeremiah Charlton, who was a low-level, well, not low-level, but mid drug dealer in Lorain, okay? Because Marsha was a crackhead. And I don't say that meanly. That's just her lifestyle, whatever. So he was interviewed. Hold on 1 second. It's my husband. I gotta answer this. Hold on. Hey, I'm on a live. Can I call you back? All right, love you, bye. Sorry, just make sure it's not an emergency. Back in 1991, August specifically, did you have occasion to see Marsha Blakely? Yes, I did. Now, this is Jeremiah Charlton. August 7th, August 8th. I point to that date into your call. On the night before Marsha died, that August 7th. Now, that's the night of, because you're in between 2 dates, right? The night of August 7th, but the early mornings of August 8th is when she died. So it's within that 12-hour time frame. Do you follow me? Yes. Did you see Marsha? Yes, I did. What time? About 11:30, quarter to 12. So that's what I'm thinking. This Mary Jane Gonzalez saw her after 11:30. Where at? Well, they called Levitt Home Apartments, which is right off of 21st Street and 58. It's the projects over there. They call them the projects, but it's not the projects, but they call them it is the project. They call them the projects. They still to this day call them the projects. Do you reside in that area at this time? No, I did not. What were you doing over there? I would like to answer the question, but I would like to request immunity for anything I had to say. Were you selling drugs? I would like to answer the question, but you want immunity. Were you in the projects that night? Yes, I was. Have you ever sold drugs, sir? You don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that question. Okay. You saw Marsha that night, right? Yes, I did. Tell us under what circumstance. Marsha was looking for a 20 piece of crack cocaine. So what did you do? Did you talk to her? I told Marsha if she went over to Bradley's house, I'd meet her over the house later and we could work out some deal. Who is Bradley? A friend who lives over there, Richardson. So she went over to this Bradley Richardson's house around, and people's timings are always off, but he says around 11:30, 12, whatever. I took Marsha back to the car, a 4-door. So he goes back over there in a little bit. He takes Marsha back to this 4-door red Chevette, and the passenger got out of the car and moved to the back seat. Marsha got in the passenger seat. I received something from the driver. What time did this happen? About 5 minutes after they told me they was looking for a goodo. About what time was this? 10 minutes to 12. Then Marsha asked me, was I sure they were cool? And I said, yeah, go ahead with them. I shut the door and I went over to a friend of mine's, Kevin Loster's house, and did something else. Did you ever give this information to the police? Yes, I did. Tell us when. I would say it's about a week after the incident, because he got hemmed up on drug charges and he wanted to, use this information to help him get out of those charges, help him get reduced on the charges, whatever. So, hold on. So, how does Rosenbaum respond to this? So, your pimp. He doesn't care the fact that he saw him. This is the Rosenbaum's prosecutor, by the way. He's not care the fact that Charlton saw Marsha Blakely and didn't see Marsha Blakely like his witness claimed around the same time, because he said it was 11 o'clock, right? Avery Jr. said 11 o'clock. Well, after that, Jeremiah Charlton saying that he saw her in the projects looking for crack, and he sent her with a car with White Boy Jeff. According to them, White Boy Jeff, this boy named Marsha was looking for some dope. Okay, hold on, I'm going to the next one. It's TikTok, so you gotta give me a second. Marsha was looking for some dope. She had no money. She needed. Hold on, I need part 3. Here we go. Charges, and he wanted to use this information to help him get out of those charges, help him get reduced on the charges, whatever. So, hold on. So, how does Rosenbaum respond to this? So, your pimp, he doesn't care the fact that he saw. This is the Rosenbaum's prosecutor, by the way. He's not the care the fact that Charlton saw Marsha Blakely and didn't see Marsha Blakely, like his witness claimed, around the same time, because he said it was 11 o'clock, right? Avery Jr. said 11 o'clock. Well, after that, Jeremiah Charlton saying that he saw her in the projects looking for crack, and he sent her with a car with White Boy Jeff, according to them, White Boy Jeff. They put her in a car and said, go do your services, and here's get some money for some $20 bag that you need. Well, then her friend, tells police later, Mary Jane Gonzalez, who worked at the shop and played clerk, saw Blakely at Gonzalez's apartment the night of 8/7/91. Now, she couldn't say exactly like when she saw her, but she says between 11:30 and 12:30. I'm thinking it's after she went with, just based on my timelines of stuff, after she went with old boy to do her dirt. I think she got a little roughed up in that situation, which is why Gonzalez is saying that she was a little beat up. Or my other theory is she saw her before she went and met with Charlton looking for money to go buy crack, because Gonzalez refused to give Blakely money, and she left with a black male with short hair, darker complexion. On 8/9/91, what I found really interesting is after Mary Jane Gonzalez talked to Captain Rivera about this, that car the next day was creeping by her apartment. And she was so spooked by it, she called Rivera to tell her, like, this car that I told you about was creeping by my apartment the next day, which is really weird, right? Well, and then I found it really interesting that Marie Jane Gonzalez said, Marsha's beat up. She was looking for money. She left in this car. That car could have been Charlton. That car could have been the White Boy Jeff that she went and did a trick for. It's all around the same time, so it's a little sketchy. But this is my biggest takeaway. Gonzalez told Rivera to question or contact her boyfriend, Willie Muncie. Now, Marsha was stabbed multiple times. Her throat was slit. We know that, right? She was beat up, but that could have been from previous stuff that went on the night before. So she's beat up. Then her murder, she's stabbed. Now, stabbing, when you always watch like true crime stuff like that, that's like a really personal murder. Like, you have some personal like issues with this person, right? So I go to the Willie, and I don't have it in front of me because I don't want to dig through all the charges. And he wanted to. This is where we come with our ulterior motive. So as I was going through the documents, I realized there is a whole other person that should be a suspect and whose story did not make any sense. And said originally in his original testimony, his original interview, that he saw Marsha Blakely at 2 a.m. and her time of death ranged between, it was like 12 a.m. and I think it was like 4 a.m. or something. But what's interesting is William Avery Jr., the sole witness to this crime, right? He said that Al Cleveland and all that and the Ohio 4 beat her up at 11 o'clock at night over some drug debt. So based on these two witnesses, that can't be true. And now based off of her apartment and what is going to go on in the next 4 parts. So that's where I'm going to leave you with, you guys, tonight. Like I said, I'm going to be writing, before I do this, I'm going to be writing a letter to Prosecutor Tony Sillo regarding the Ohio 4 case. I will be posting it on this podcast episode when I upload it to all the podcast platforms. It will be on my website again. I want to show you. Mean Street News.com. If you want to go check out go to Lorain County Files, go to the Ohio 4, okay? This has links to the Joe Rogan podcast, the original one in November of 2024, the election interference in Lorain County, an article that I wrote about this whole thing going on. Prosecutor Tomlinson decided to file motions, the Ohio 4 getting trial. Those are the motions. Documents provided by Josh Dubin, all of those testimonies that I went through and that I read and came to this conclusion of this other potential suspects. And then, like I said, all of my notes, breakdown, or if you just want to go watch reels, go to TikTok, Instagram, Mean Street News. You will find all of the little best clips of that episode. And you can also find me on any podcast platform and read the new ones, or you can just go on my website here like I am and hear all the podcast episodes that I covered regarding the Ohio 4. And the template will be to Tony Sillo will be right below here tomorrow. So, and I will make that publicly known. But I'm going to leave you guys with my theory on who. It's 4 parts, 4 TikToks, so I think 12 minutes total, but of who done it. And I think it's a lot closer to Marsha, and it's honestly more plausible. It just doesn't really make sense. But whoever tuned in tonight, thank you for tuning in tonight. If you catch me in the morning, think catch me in the morning. I will see you guys on Saturday to wind up 2023 and my RICO case this weekend. It'll be fun. So it's been really busy, but it's going to be a lot's going to be happening the next couple of months. I think people are going to be really excited to see, that something is going to be done about everything that's gone on. So stay focused and stay with me the next 12 minutes and watch who done it, who I think is the culprit of the murder of Marsha Blakely and Ray Epps, just based off of their testimonies at the time of the murders. Question or contact her boyfriend, Willie Muncie. Now, Marsha was stabbed multiple times. Her throat was slit. We know that, right? She was beat up, but that could have been from previous stuff that went on the night before. So she's beat up. Then her murder, she's stabbed. Now, stabbing, when you always watch like true crime stuff like that, that's like a really personal murder. Like you have some personal like issues with this person, right? So I go to the Willie, and I don't have it in front of me because I don't want to dig through all those things. So Willie Muncie. William Muncie says that around 2 a.m, his original testimony, 2 a.m, he sees Marsha Blakely walking by his mom's house in the projects towards Epps' apartment, where she was staying at, right? And he stopped her. Well, how did he stop her? He only took her purse. He said he grabbed her purse because he didn't want her to continue to go without him. So he grabbed her purse and she stopped and waited for him. Well, according to William Muncie's story, his bike broke, his bike chain broke on the way, this 1.5 mile walk. His bike chain broke and he had to fix it. Well, apparently while he was fixing it, he ran into an individual named Walker, that Walker I was telling you about, right? And that Marsha went on towards her apartment by herself. Well, Marcia never made it to apartment, apparently. Between that short walk from her boyfriend's house to Epps' house, which is, I mean, if you've ever been by the projects, it's not a far distance, couple miles, right? And he, though, runs into this guy, Leonard. I don't want to show you this one. Leonard Walker. Question or contact her boyfriend, Willie Muncie. Now, Marcia was stabbed. Marcia never made it to apartment, apparently. Between that short walk from her boyfriend's house to Epps' house, which is, I mean, if you've ever been by the projects, it's not a far distance, couple miles, right? And he, though, runs into this guy, Leonard. I don't want to show you this one. Leonard Walker. And this is where shit just gets weird. Now, when Marcia Blakely's body is found, she has one shoe. Can you guess where the other shoe is found? And I'm not a, trained detective, but the other shoe is found at her house. Okay. So, Leonard Walker, directing your attention to August 7th, August 8th. Did you have an occasion to go over to his house that night? Which is talking about Epps. Yes, I did. What time did you arrive there? Between 12 and 1. Was anybody there when you got there? No. What did you do when you got there? Me and a friend, Mr. Muncie, knocked on the door. Who is Muncie? William Muncie Jr. is related to Marcia Blakely. It's her boyfriend. Did she have any children by him? I think one. Was he there when you arrived? No, he was on a bike. So I think it was later than 12, 1 o'clock. I think it was 2, 3 o'clock, right? 2, 3 a.m. that he arrived. Only people's time frames here are perfectly right, but it kind of makes sense. Because Muncie said it was 2 a.m. He was very specific. He said 2 a.m. He said no, he was on a bike and he asked if I had seen Marcia. Well, why would he ask if you've seen Marcia if he was just with Marcia? What did you tell him? I said I haven't seen her, but I was going that way, so we went together. So he was just walking with Marcia, according to his testimony. So why did you think you would find Marcia? I wasn't looking for her. I was just going that way. I told him I would go with them. Tell us what happened. We went over to his house. We knocked on the door. It opened. We went in. We looked around the house and see nobody was there. We went in and saw nobody there. And we went and sat outside because we figured if any of the Epps people came while we were there, they would wonder why we were there. You went outside and sat on the couch. That was outside. Where is that at? From here to the corner where the deputy is? Yeah. What did you do on that couch? We just sat there and drank and talked. Who is we? Me and Mr. Muncie. Just keep going. How long did you stay? Until almost daybreak. You drank until sunrise. That's when we figured we would leave because nobody came to the apartment. So if you're looking for your girlfriend said you were walking with her. Your girlfriend said she was on her way to apartment, and you weren't that far behind because your chain broke. You run into this guy who said that she wasn't there that when he was on his way past, but he'll go with you back. Yeah, no, this is making sense. I take it you had been in the apartment before. Yes, I was there the night before with them drinking. Did Willie have a problem with his table leg as far as I know? Well, the table was knocked over. So he's like being alcoholic. His shit came loose. Shit was on the side. Now. Okay. His shoe. Okay. So I think it was saying 2 officers to Taliana. I'm not sure if it was Resendez. Taliana was there. Resendez was in and out of this case. His shoes were there by the bed and one. Yeah, no, this is making sense. I take it you had been in the apartment before. Yes, I was there the night before with them drinking. Did Willie have a problem with his table leg as far as I know? Well, the table was knocked over. So he's like being alcoholic. His shit came loose. Shit was on the side. Now. Okay, his shoe. Okay, so I think it was saying 2 officers to Taliana. I'm not sure if it was Resendez. Taliana was there. Resendez was in and out of this case. His shoes were there by the bed, and one of her shoes was by the door. So Marshall Blakely had one shoe on the murder scene, and the other one was missing. Well, the other missing shoe was at the house. And it looked like he had been drinking and walked out, went to the store or something. We were not expecting any foul play. So, according to Avery Jr., there's a huge fight, and she got her ass beat in that apartment by 4 grown men. But these guys are saying there was no foul play. There's another question, Mr. Prosecutor. It didn't look like a fight had occurred there. No, not at all. Did you see any blood? No. Did you clean up any blood? No. Did you clean the apartment at all? No. Were you there between the hours of midnight or 1 o'clock until sunrise? Yes. Did you tell the police yet? Yes, I did. Tell us about Floyd Epps' apartment. What people do there. They drink. It was just a gathering place. He said he did stop there sometimes. He worked at the Ford plant, so he wasn't always around. Rosenbaum. Were you drunk that night? Oh, I had been drinking, but I wasn't drunk. So, can you tell this jury whether or not a fight occurred in that apartment? No, I can't. You weren't looking for any signs of a fight when you were there? No. You say one of Marsha's shoes was by the door. The television set was on. The table leg was slanted. And you left around sunrise. Yep, sunrise would be about what time on August 8th in the morning? 6:30, maybe a little earlier. No, it was daylight. It was daylight when you left. So you left around 6 a.m. and you have no idea what happened in the apartment until the police arrived at noon. Television set was on. The table leg was slanted. And you left around sunrise. Yep, sunrise would be about what time on August 8th in the morning? 6:30, maybe a little earlier. No, it was daylight. It was daylight when you left. So you left around 6 a.m. and you have no idea what happened in the apartment until the police arrived at noon. All right. And he says no, basically. And he said he was there with Muncie, the boyfriend, the boyfriend. Okay. Now, this is what I found really interesting. Is the following additional information should be noted regarding the retention of evidence in this investigation as noted within the interview of Willie Muncie, which is Muncie, Muncie, on Thursday, August 8th, 1991, while Blakely attempted to walk west on West 23rd, he grabbed and retained her purse. That's at 2 a.m. I was telling you about. Muncie explained that he later transported the purse to the apartment of Floyd Epps while attempting to locate Blakely at that location. Well, if she's walking on West 23rd towards the apartment, it's not that far, and you have to fix your bike chain. Leonard Walker was already there. He didn't see Blakely, but you were fixing your bike chain. You run into him, and then you go back and drink with him the rest of the night. Her shoes there. You have her purse. I mean, see if I television set was on. Things that make you go, last one here. All right. And he says no, basically. And he said he was there with Muncie, the boyfriend. Okay. Now, this is what I found really interesting. Is the following additional information should be noted regarding the retention of evidence in this investigation as noted within the interview of Willie Muncie, which is Muncie, Muncie, on Thursday, August 8th, 1991, while Blakely attempted to walk west on West 23rd, he grabbed and retained her purse. That's at 2 a.m. I was telling you about. Muncie explained that he later transported the purse to the apartment of Floyd Epps while attempting to locate Blakely at that location. Well, if she's walking on West 23rd towards the apartment, it's not that far, and you have to fix your bike chain. Leonard Walker was already there. He didn't see Blakely, but you were fixing your bike chain. You run into him, and then you go back and drink with him the rest of the night. Her shoes there. You have her purse. Muncie advised that the right of the purse was empty with the exception of the purse containing a partial pack of Newport, and her cigarettes are in there. crackhead not wanting your cigarettes. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Like, it's not making sense. The boyfriend story is not making any sense at all in this case. He's saying that he saw Marsha around 2 a.m. walking home. Okay. His bike chain breaks. She continues to walk. The projects are a very, very small area. Okay. So I could get all around the projects walking in 10 minutes, you know, from the beginning to the end. Less than this situation. They're half a mile. Walking, right. Not even quarter mile. He stops her by taking her purse. Now, when his bike chain breaks and he has to stop and fix his bike chain, according to William Mincy's story, he keeps her purse. So, you all, I mean, women in their purses. No man is keeping my purse from me, especially with my smokes in it. I'm a smoker, so especially with my smokes in it. Then Marsha's not seen at all. The boyfriend's maybe mad at her. It's a very personal murder. And then they're hanging out at Epps' apartment and the rest of the day drinking, smoking, doing whatever. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. And Mitzi William was the first person to bring up. My internet's going out. Hold on a second. Was the first person to bring up the fact that these guys from New York were around. And he specifically names Lenworth. He names Al Cleveland, you know, and all of that. And he wasn't very happy about Marsha, you know, running around and all right. And he says he was not happy about Marsha running around and doing, you know, her dirt. Now, my last part, okay, is I'm going to show you because I just think this is important. How close her boyfriend's house was to her apartment, and then how close it is to the scene of the murder. Hey everybody, this is Katie. I'm in Lorain tonight, and I just had the thought I'm gonna show. And after this, I am letting you go for the night. And thank you for joining me. And you guys have a good night. And then if I see you in the morning, I will see you then. I will blast this out tomorrow after I do a little bit of editing. But stay focused, Lorain County, and reach out to me if you know anything. Show you guys, give you guys a realistic version of Marsha Blakely's movements and where Floyd Epps was found. Oh no. Sorry, hit something. Hold on. Hey everybody, this is Katie. I'm in 21st Street in Lorain right now, okay? Here's the next one. I'm just fast forwarding to where her apartment is going to be. Here's the gas station. All right. So she was walking, I believe it was 23rd towards Sunset. So there's 22nd. And if you look over here, there's the apartments we're coming to. And they were walking towards the apartments, right? So she was going down West 23rd. So here's West 23rd. And you can see 58 through. Now, where I'm at the stop sign, right to the right, that intersection where you see the apartments going horizontally is where Marsha Blakely's apartment was. And you're going to see me I'm going to flip around because I went too far down. But it's literally this street is where she was walking down the night that she was murdered. And she ran into her boyfriend on a couple houses in on this corner right here, crossed the street, and then went down that little how it veers. You'll see in 2 seconds. And literally her apartment was on just the horizontal, and as soon as you turn the corner, that's a different street. 58 right there through so it's not that long, like 3rd Street. Okay, so she's walking down Reeves. This is where Muncie, I believe, saw her. I might be getting it confused, but 23rd, because she was heading to Sunset. So we're on 23rd right now. Start here, okay? And right up there is a little up there, about not even half a mile is where Floyd Epps was found. Go to that lake, go to right? And then she's walking this way, Sunset, towards the apartment. Here's Sunset to one of these apartments. I don't have the address with me, so I can't tell you which one, right? But now we're gonna head towards where her body was found. I'm gonna show you how close it is. I mean, this is literally the project. There's another half of it, but this is where they were the night of her murder. Okay, and we're gonna come back out this way too. These are all project apartments. They weren't redone. Some of them, some paint on some of them. It looks nice. The roads fucking suck in the rain. All right, and then I'm gonna show you where her body was discovered. So she, that was her path of walking that night, right? Supposedly, right? I think she ran. And I think when she ran down here. I'm gonna show you in a minute. Cars coming. So it's funny. God always appears, right, to the church across the street. Where her body was found. I'm gonna show you. You could walk this entire project, probably not every street, but from start to finish, walking in 10 minutes or less. I mean, it's really not a long walk. So let's go this way. All right, we're on 58, Route 58. Now this is all the projects. That Sunset, where the apartment was. I already showed you her little path. So you got to turn around. I'm gonna show you where her body was discovered. Not the same spot, but this is all the projects. Now this is the other half I was talking about, the north half, because it's split between what we're at right now is West 21st Street, but it's split between the two. So like I said, not a long distance. We're gonna be way longer at the red light than it would take me to walk. And that shopping plaza that you see right there, that's where she was found behind. So like I said, she could have ran from Sunset to where she was her demise, running from somebody. She couldn't, if somebody didn't drive her. So I don't really believe that theory. But this is the Gateway Plaza. They've actually remodeled it. It looked a lot crazier than this. I'll just show you a photo. But she was found behind it, so back here. And this is the end of the project. So she was found back there. Back there. But like I said, I did this because I wanted to show you. It's hard when somebody's saying, oh, she's on West 21st or Sunset or Reeves or West, and you don't have any context of, what that distance is. So like I said, I wanted to show you that, but within 8 minutes, I literally drove that way, got lost a little bit, got turned around. And like I said, I was just out in Lorain tonight and the thought came to me to show you the reality of somebody could have easily walked, ran to meet her demise. You don't even mean a car doesn't technically need to be involved. And even if it was, it'd be like a 2-minute drive. So the project is not a big area. And in Lorain, it's probably 1 square mile. All right. You guys have a good night. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I will catch you all Saturday. I'll be on in the morning about 8:30, 9 o'clock. You guys stay focused, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for joining me today on Mean Street. I hope you enjoyed the show. I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider supporting our work in supporting my effort. You can support directly underneath at the Spotify donations, or you can directly give a donation at paypal.me/Mean Street, Ohio. Any donation received will help me continue to provide news to you and everyone else across Ohio and beyond. I love what I do, and I just hope to continue to do it. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me today on